Ebusuafo ne tiefo ni die kwan so mema obi bia akwaba me pacho ahanu daily update ebusua me pacho the oral team ni finally oma fan menka se omo de omo report e command the president His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Aye. Now, according to the oral team, Jumana, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, Edesha Monsan, Omeji. Now, in their course of working, yet in Kofobi Diana so far, na Abase or Mono Omhubomu, yet the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, His Excellency, yet in Idia, ye can't say plot to be, and I said, Dime be, and onone dia, onunisi. Ana ye senya nti ebi se ne wife cantonment a fie bia a si ho a ono so sa illegally wa acquired sa property no yeti chema Wontumi din na nanse ya okuje to ablakwa on the floor of parliament vetting during the vetting your friends the vetting of onono ablakwa no or mayenya nti yeso even the minority leader a friend afenyo markings krono kran hu bom na sankofo nyina no wo ma factor mu in the report so far Nyankopon aya adoma America so omawie omo reporter omo de command the president not the president are taking sa oral that is the oral na ankasa to the next level on said now we need the preparatory process and now they are there to say omoje information kwa nti aka say prosecution ebe ye adwuma and or maybe the command the president we are hoping say the president so no ono so be command the AG that is Attorney General Akrutinga that is Akrutinga na ono so the necessary steps ono so be taken no ono so take it na where the prosecution lies near fa more na ye nyina ye nhwe ntebusuan information aba nyina ne say the oral team no wo mawie wo madwuma Nyankopon ya adoma next week a bit my Monday, a bit my Tuesday, a bit my Wednesday omo final report in bekwa command the president His Excellency John Dramani Mahama no so or they call the next level me da se bebre yenko tie nsem na nkasa ne nkyeremu emfri the oral team members na nkasa ho we die lawyer Martin Kpebu the private legal practitioner or the oral team no ho ono epie bekaye na me pacho Nyankopon sha na onyo kesi me da se bebre
hoping. Wait, as you said, Monday the report on your work will be submitted to the president, and that would be forwarded, we understand, to the Attorney General, and then the processes of prosecution will start. The concern or the conversation has been around what the next phase of this oral work would be, to the extent that if oral received so much public support because of the perceived weaknesses in the state institutions mandated to do what you did as a committee, then aren't we going back to the same problem? Because you have not been given prosecutory powers. Mm-hmm. You've just received information from the public, some of which you've gone to verify. You are then going to still go back to the AG. AG will still have to use YOCO, CID, all the others, the judiciary for that matter, to still prosecute this. So what have we solved?
We've solved a lot. You remember I've always called this decision a master stroke, okay, right? Yeah, JM's decision to set up the committee as a master stroke. Let's handle it this way. You know, he got a huge mandate, right? Mm-hmm. Over 1.6 million, right? Mm-hmm. Because people were upset with the previous government. You know, Omampam, when you go and talk, they say, don't say Omampam.
Well, we don't have to.
Right? That's how people like it, right?
No.
Oh, yes. So that's why I said, we're told not to say. But even the time I said he was part of the criminal syndicate, so I was asked to withdraw, but later,
so let's stay on course. You said we withdrew it.
So, you see that there was so much despondency. Mm-hmm. And it was going to take at least another 1 month before GM would be sworn in. So there was that vacuum, huge vacuum. Don't forget, me sitting here, how many times haven't we complained about Chairman Wontumi, the Galamsey fight? We reported to Ekufu Dampare, he refused to do any work. He and, when I say refused to do any work, I'm talking about substantive work, taking the case to court. He and Faustina and Dokufi, they were doing politics. So you see, even me sitting here, how many times we call this case here, Dampare would not budge. And is there any wonder that today policemen are up in arms against him? A lot of despondency in the police service saying that JM should sack him immediately. Otherwise, they will be fired, right? So this is a typical example. That even a case on the media here, Dampare would not do anything much here in Andokufi. So it's just, what do you call it, a stereotype of the bigger problem, right? So people decided that, look, they want GM to begin to take their cases on. But here is the case, he is one person with limited energy, right? So he needed more people to come on board. Unfortunately for us, the Whistleblowers Act allows the system so much so that you can even blow the whistle to your head of family.
Right.
The elders of your family, your MP, office of the president, etc. Of course, police and Yoko and the other ones are also listed there. So he saw that, if the law allows even NGOs, you know, the Mary Ada, that, you know, we've had the discussions, she was part of some of the previous discussions, and Okujeto pointed out that, but Mary Ada, people come to you as an NGO to report to you, right? They know there is police, they know there is OSP, yet they come to you. So whistleblowing is part of, natural, I dare say, our culture. So JM just set it up to fill that vacuum, that, okay, take your whistleblowing, take your complaints, take your petitions to the oral team, right? So that they can begin to gather them, reorganize, etc. Whilst we prepare to take office, and then for the Attorney General to settle in. So hope, if he had left it, he had let that vacuum for this over 1 month, it wouldn't have been good at all for our democracy. So the first thing we shouldn't underestimate is that it signaled that he was going to walk his talk. Very huge signal that he was going to walk that talk, right? And true, you've seen, and I told you, even the first week, I told you that based on information I was giving, remember it was an eye-opener for me when it comes to the work of the OSP. You know how I had largely supported Kesi Ejabin and the OSP this in here, right? But based on information I got in the first 1 week, then that support quickly dwindled because I saw that Akufo-Addo had muscled Kesi, but Kesi didn't have enough courage to come out against Akufo-Addo like Martin Amidu. So I was like, Kesi, I thought you were strong. You see how Amidu came out and specifically told us that Akufo-Addo was stampeding him on the Ejapa report. Kesi came and was trying to be more nuanced. That's why I told Bobby Banson, my good friend, that over the years, he's also becoming more nuanced. No, the country needs straight talkers. Just put it back one time. Don't try to be nuanced. Try to be politically correct. The meaning will be lost. So I was like, Kesi, but if Akufo-Addo is interfering in the work, be specific. Akufo-Addo is interfering in this work. Simple. And you think, I mean, what can he do? And from that moment, you know that even if you drop one what do you call it, drop of blood, will hold Akufo-Addo accountable. So why is Kesi scared? And the whole system. So that's why I told you that. So for me here, sitting here, having gone on the grounds, it's made me a lot wiser. This is just one example. There's no time to go through other examples. So this oral thing, look, I maintain it's a master stroke. Let's just continue to walk that talk. That stage 2, which will be the investigations and prosecutions, will also be good.
Right.
We need to put matters in proper context. And the context gives us a better appreciation. First of all, as we appreciate, Article 41F of the Constitution places a responsibility and duty on every Ghanaian. Now, that responsibility is to prevent the misuse and abuse of public property.
It's the duties of a citizen.
It's the duty, fundamental duty of a citizen. So the membership of ORA, the committee, even stand alone, have that responsibility. So constituting them does not derogate from that constitutional duty placed on them. Now, the point has also been raised as to what approach ought to be used. One, whether a commission of inquiry, as stipulated by the Constitution, because of the public interest nature of it, or the approach adopted by HE, the president. Now, based on sound legal advice and our own experience with Ghana 50, and the reasoning of His Lordship Justice Samuel Mafosao, may he so rest in peace, where the court made the point that because of the constitutional, dictates relative to commissions of inquiry, it does no longer becomes appropriate to go on that route. Because if you recall, after the work of Ghana at 50, prosecutions were mounted on the work. Yes, subject to further police investigation. And if you read the ruling of His Lordship Justice Mafosa, he makes the point that the Attorney General concedes at a point that yes, there was a commission of inquiry. However, the police further conducted further investigation on the basis on which the trial proceeded. Then he likens the scenario to the biblical position where Apostle Paul and co, they had to go on appeal. And therefore, once the commission of inquiry route makes it a judgment of a high court, you place limits as to what you can do with that outcome. And so in this matter, if HE, the president, had used the commission of inquiry based on the soundness of the decision by His Lordship Justice Mafosa in the Ghana 50 ruling, would have placed some legal limits to the outcome. And possibly would have provided an immunity to persons whose conduct may become the subject matter of what Ora did. So I would not, with the benefit of what happened in Ghana 50, advise HE, the president, to proceed on that tangent. Because then would have turned their work into brutal fulfillment. Would have just been paperwork for the optics. But where, for instance, in the work of Ora, there are revelations of serious crimes having been committed, that would underscore what HE will be doing upon receipt of the report. And so the commission of inquiry route would have been problematic because of the judgment delivered in the Ghana at 50 decision.
No, if I just come in briefly, can you say, you see the point you made? The CI itself says that you can use independent evidence. So Mafosa's decision cannot cut it. But like you are saying, it's a risk.
No, I would not advise the president knowing the inherent risk.
Excellent. That's what
because you see, what it does is that it opens the conversation to divergent views.
I agree. So I want you to consider the risk.
Whether it is this or it is not that. I would not tell the president to take an approach that inherently faces that constitutional or judicial risk. I will not do that.
Right.
Now, what the president has done, which is the Martin Kpebu, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Damian Domlevo committee, is basically for the purposes of gathering information, without more. That information will be given to the president. Upon receipt of that information, the president will now say, with this information at my disposal, my Attorney General, police, take A, B, C, D actions. On the basis of that, if prosecutable dockets can be generated out of that, the Attorney General, pursuant to his powers under Article 88, will proceed to deal with the matters that may be coming. Some may just be red herring upon the basis of further investigation. Because in this case, my learned senior Martin Kpebu has not taken caution statement from anybody.
It wasn't an investigation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The retired police officer on the committee, Kofi Boakye, at this point is a retired police officer, cannot even administer a caution statement to anybody. So clearly it puts it in the context of limits.
Yes.
Because at this point they are only gathering information. Without more. Now, the idea of whistleblowing that had been introduced to the conversation possibly stretches it.
Why?
Because you see, if you look at her ladyship, I think Novisi Ayeni, her ruling in the Republic versus this matter involving Isaac Odum. the civil servants that were involved in Honorable Mutake's issue.
No, it's a CEDU.
No, Isaac Odum is one of them. They were.
So you saying the judge?
Yeah, the judgment.
No,
Okay,
it's
then-
Novice. She gave the decision when they did the judicial review. And she made some comments about the Whistleblowers Act and the limits associated with it. I do not think at this point we are dealing strictly with whistleblowing because the Act places limits to what you can blow or what you cannot.
Actually, I don't think so.
No, energy
It says
has-
any break of the law.
No,
Yes.
listen, no.
Yes.
Any break of the law, like you pointed out, when they finish their work, who they should submit their report
Yes.
to among this.
Yes.
The act, you see, when an act provides an avenue for the doing of something, you are supposed to comply with
Exactly.
it. That would have taken the matter from the realm of the president. Because in this case, this is a presidential committee.
No, at the
This-
time you were set up, he had not been sworn.
No, but there was a
Yes.
clause.
President
He said
elect,
the
yes.
preparatory steps
Yes.
towards
That
the
has been
implementation.
consistent that this is a preparatory team.
Preparatory.
Yes.
So at this point, I do not even want us to bring the issue of whistleblowing. This is just a president-elect, mindful of implementing a campaign promise, says that I want this ABCD information gathered for me. Whatever you do with that information, he had not disclosed. With the benefit of time, on Monday, when my senior Martin Kpebu, the Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa and co. deliver or submit their report to him, he will now tell us what he wants to do with the information they have gathered. Now, when you place it within the scope of whistleblowing, because it is a legislation, it has its own statutory limits
Yes.
and scope within which you can use it for. So at this point, I think that we should leave the conversation to the level where it is the president who has set up this committee. Let's wait for him.
The president-elect at that time.
But now president.
but-
because you see, if you proceed on that, then it will be as though the committee will cease working upon his assumption. But he gave a clear indication in the preamble that as part of the preparatory works towards he implementing his campaign promise on Ora, this is what he intends to do. So let him receive the report on Monday. I'm sure either through the Honorable Felix Kwachi or any of the president's assigns,
Yes.
you formally communicate what exactly he intends to do with the information gathered by the committee. Then we can have a conversation on the way forward. I think that at this critical moment, we should let the president communicate to all of us what he intends to do. Why not? Another president can decide that he will receive the report and say, no, I don't care about it. Now, you see, if you also go by the Commission of Inquiry, by the dictates of the Constitution, the president is obliged to issue a white paper within certain allowable time period. That in itself has also its problem. The president, John Dramani Mahama, can receive the oral report and not talk about it and quietly give it to the Attorney General. I've received this report without even uttering a word.
I thought, let's correct it. I thought he publicly said it will be handed over to the Attorney General.
No, the point I'm making is what the AG will do with it, he had not stated. But the point I'm making is that if you go on the Commission of Inquiry, by law, he's obliged to issue a white paper.
Yes.
And to give government policy position
On it.
it. All of these things, you don't want to embedding the president with it.
In fact,
So permit him to use this strategy. And I think that the decision for the president to go on that route is based on sound legal advice and experience. So as to prevent all those possible
Outcomes.
risks and then outcomes that
you
may be
referenced the
embedded.
Ghana at 50 situation, but the problem with the Ghana at 50, would you agree, was with the instrument that set it up, that Commission of Inquiry?
If you read...
Because they copied previous instruments which said evidence gathered will not be used for prosecution. So Commission of Inquiry can be set
First
up.
of all,
Really?
the instrument itself draws its validity from the Constitution. But the instrument is just to enable the implementation of the constitutional provision. So it is the constitutional provision that crystallizes the outcome of the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry into a judgment of a high court. And so in his, my Lord Justice Mafusau, in his ruling, gave the clearest indication that if it crystallizes into a judgment of a high court, then the only possible benefit from it is an appeal.
Godwin, you see that
so
in 2010, based on the problems with the Ghana at 50, a new CI was passed.
That's the one that says you can use the evidence if you gather it independently.
Yes, the problem that we found.
You can even see that even after Ghana at 50, even after Ghana at 50, we went back to Brazil, and that was also a commission of inquiry.
Yeah.
But the point I'm saying is that there are constitutional limits.
Yes,
because it's clearly the Constitution that says the outcome of the work can crystallize into a judgment of the High Court and not the CI. And that provides a judge the benefit of interpreting it anyhow. Why would you want to take that risk? Especially of a president who had given a determination that I want to ensure that in appropriate cases, there are accountability.
Right.
Why would I take that inherent
Your
risk? I won't
challenge
do
is that, so that I understand. Sorry,
yes.
Is that if we use the commission of inquiry route, the possibility of the outcome of that
crystallizing into a judgment of a high court,
that would mean that it will limit the Attorney General from taking, let's say, prosecutorial steps based on that.
And I think it is a risk not worth it. Okay. Now, with the work the president had gotten Kpebu and others to do,
the risk is still there.
No, it's not. There's no risk because at this point, look, it is nobody took or gave a statement under oath.
Yes.
Right. Nobody gave caution statement or anything. So, I mean, this is like any other group of persons going out there gathering information. Beyond that is the one who will receive it and what he intends to do. So that risk is completely minimized. In fact, it is non-existent.
But
and,
there is,
and if you recall, the learned Attorney General, during his vetting, at that time designate, when the issue of ORA was put to him, he provided a constitutional context and said, look, ordinarily, for all of us as citizens, we are enjoined to even report crime. At the point of reporting the crime, it's nothing. Because then, the concern raised by the minority, which has to do with the requirement of due process, that was their fear.
Yeah.
That if you are not careful, you may be engaging in revolutionary justice, as they called it.
Yeah.
What safeguards do the Constitution provide for you? The requirements of due process. That is where we'll be getting to the next stage. At this point, it's just information gathering, without more.
But that information gathering...
Let's round up.
Ebusunya ye do bibia se we nyamre no abenya video ni bi so ahwe se dem kan high daily update TV. Ebusunya me pacho nya video ni hwe wi and so when you kwa dem subscribe to your YouTube channel. My thumb up na share our videos ma won so love senye bi enti comment section ayo dia. Comment bi a wo bi afahye honom. Ye beche na yen so yakenkan yakopon sha na onya okese. Me pacho stay tuned for more updates. Ye din komo ni besi. I ma rain so do comment e be share comment section. Yakopon sha ye da se bebre.